Hi, today I'm talking about American actor John Barrymore, who died in 1942 at the age of 60. John Barrymore was an American actor. He is actress Drew Barrymore's grandfather. He was born John Sidney Blythe on either the 14th or 15th of February 1882 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There is a discrepancy regarding the date. On his birth certificate it says it's the 14th, but in a family Bible it says he was born on the 15th. His family and friends called him Jack. John Barrymore, Jack, was the youngest of 3 children. Brother Lionel was born in 1878 and sister Ethel was born in 1879. Here they are with their mother. His father was Maurice Barrymore, an Indian-born British actor whose real name was Herbert Blythe. He apparently changed his name to Barrymore after seeing the name on a poster in the Haymarket Theatre in London. He wanted his name to be pronounced as the French pronunciation of Maurice and not the English pronunciation of Maurice. His mother was Georgie Drew Barrymore. She was a stage actress. She was born Georgiana Emma Drew. She is actress Drew Barrymore's great-grandmother. During the time Georgie was pregnant with Ethel, Maurice was in Marshall, Texas with actor Ben Porter and his brother-in-law John Drew Jr. Maurice and Ben had played cards with an outlaw named Jim Curry and had won some money from him. When Maurice, Ben and actress Ellen Cummings were dining at the White House Saloon, a drunk Jim Curry tried to start a fight. Jim ended up shooting Ben in the stomach and Maurice in the chest. Ben died and after an operation Maurice survived. At the trial, Jim received a not guilty verdict and got off with it because of shady dealings and due to his brother being the mayor of Shreveport, Louisiana. An interesting fact is that Maurice was an animal lover and in the 1890s he bought a farm on Staten Island to keep his collection of pets. Maurice died in 1905 at the age of 55 from the effects of an STD, the one beginning with S and ending in S. Georgie Drew Barrymore's parents were Louisa Lane Drew, who was a 19th century actress and the owner of the Arch Street Theatre, and John Drew, whose real name was Jonathan Henry Drewland. He was born in Dublin, Ireland. He was an actor and theatre manager. Georgie's 2 brothers, John Drew Jr. and Sidney, were also actors. Louisa Lane Drew, pictured here, the great-great-grandmother of Drew Barrymore, was English born. She was professionally known as Mrs. John Drew. She was the daughter of Eliza Trentner, who was a singer and actress, and Thomas Frederick Lane, who was an actor and a theatre manager. Louisa appeared in plays with Junius Brutus Booth and his son John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of President Abraham Lincoln. What an acting pedigree Drew Barrymore had on her father's side. 2 acting dynasties, the Drews and the Barrymores. When John was 11 years old, his mother Georgie died from tuberculosis at the age of 36. For financial reasons, after their mother's death, Ethel and Lionel took up acting. John wanted to be an artist and studied at the Slade School of Fine Art in London. He got a job at the New York Evening Journal as an illustrator. Here is John, Ethel and Lionel. In 1901, John apparently had a love affair with Evelyn Nesbit, who was an artist's model, chorus girl, stage actress and a silent movie actress. She gained notoriety in 1906 when her husband shot and killed her lover. She appeared in a play called Florodora on Broadway and was introduced to New York architect Stanford White. He befriended her and her mother and, according to Evelyn, got her drunk. She had no memory of what happened next. She woke to find that she had been raped. She, however, continued to have a relationship with Stanford. She was 16 and he was in his 40s. John saw Evelyn in the play The Wild Rose, and being attracted to her, he saw it several times. Stanford White hosted a party and invited John, as he was friends with his sister, Ethel. John was a dashing 20-year-old, and he and Evelyn had a romance in 1902. He was a low-paid illustrator, and both Evelyn's mother and Stanford didn't think he was good enough for her. Poor John even proposed to her and she turned him down. Years later, he declared that she was his first love. Evelyn married the son of a Pittsburgh Railroad millionaire called Harry Kendall Thor. He was the heir to a $40 million fortune. He also saw her in the play The Wild Rose and went to many performances because he was enamored with her. He was mentally unstable and liked beating people up with a whip, which was covered up by his family. He disliked Stanford White because Evelyn told him about the RAPE, and he also thought Stanford actively blocked him from being a member of various high society clubs. Evelyn and Harry went to a performance of Mam'selle Champagne, which was at the Rooftop Theatre of Madison Square Garden. During the finale of the show, Harry approached Stanford and shot him 3 times, killing him instantly. He claimed he shot him because of what he did to Evelyn. Harry was committed to mental institutions and was finally released because of his wealth and connections. John ended up being fired from his job at the newspaper and reluctantly entered the family business of acting. He began his acting career in 1903. In 1910, John married actress and socialite Catherine Corey Harris. He spent a lot of time apart from her, and his drinking caused problems in the marriage. They divorced in 1917. Here they are. As well as stage acting, John ventured into the movie business. His first feature film was An American Citizen in 1914. He tried to enlist in the United States Army in World War I, but army doctors discovered he had varicose veins and he was rejected. He did plays such as Justice in 1916, Richard III in 1920, and Hamlet in 1922. His Hamlet proved to be a great success, and he was called the greatest living American tragedian in the publication Brooklyn Life. He had success with Hamlet in London as well in 1925. Regarding his movie career, in 1920 producer Adolph Zukor wanted him for the movie Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which proved to be a great horror movie. During this time, he was married to his second wife, Blanche Ulrichs, who was a suffragist and from a wealthy family, who published poetry under the pseudonym of Michael Strange. They married in 1920 and had a daughter, Diana, in 1921. He played the famous detective Sherlock Holmes in 1922. He starred in Beau Brummel in 1924. During this film, he had an affair with his co-star Mary Astor, as he was unhappy in his marriage. He starred in The Sea Beast in 1926. His co-star in this movie was Dolores Costello, who would become his third wife. He obtained a divorce from Blanche and married Dolores in 1928. They had 2 children. A daughter, Dolores, was born in 1930, and a son, John Drew Barrymore, was born in 1932. Who is Drew Barrymore's father? John was nicknamed the Great Profile because he had a marvellous left side profile. He was extremely good looking. His films were successful because of his acting style. He was able to create facial expressions and emotions with his eyes during the close-ups in his movies, which was seen to be a modern style of acting as opposed to stage acting. Warner Brothers was producing a sound film in 1926 called Don Juan. They needed a great male actor to make it a hit. They cast John in the lead role. There was no dialogue, but it had the Vitaphone sound-on-disc system, which provided music and sound effects throughout the film. It was a smash hit. Sound films needed actors with great voices, so theatre actors were the best choice. John was leading man material. He could act, and he also had the looks and the rich voice. His first talkie was The Show of Shows in 1929. He starred in Svengali in 1931. MGM wanted him for their movie Grand Hotel in 1932, with an all-star cast of Wallace Beery, Joan Crawford, Greta Garbo and Lionel Barrymore. This was a smash hit too. It won an Oscar for Best Picture. All 3 Barrymores, John, Lionel and Ethel, starred in the 1933 movie Rasputin and the Empress. It was during this film that John's difficulties in remembering lines became a problem. He was 51 and he had been drinking since he was 14 years old. They had to write his lines up on boards so that he could read from them. In the 1933 movie Dinner at 8, with Jean Harlow, Lionel Barrymore and Billy Burke, he played the part of a washed-up actor who liked to drink in a self-parody of himself. In 1934 he was in the screwball comedy 20th Century with Carole Lombard. His comedy acting in this was applauded. He was in Romeo and Juliet in 1936 and True Confession in the same year. In all of the roles he was playing a self-parody of himself. There is a story that MGM producer Irving Thalberg hired a security guard to try to stop John from drinking on set. He gained a divorce from Dolores in 1936 and he married his 4th wife, Elaine Barry, the same year. She was a 19-year-old fan of his and had gained access to him while he was in hospital suffering from bronchitis and influenza. They became friends and started a romantic relationship. Her real name was Elaine Jacobs, but she changed her name to Elaine Barry because it was similar to Barrymore. They divorced in 1940. In 1940 he was in the film The Great Profile, playing an alcoholic actor, which again was lampooning himself. During that year he was invited to place his handprints and footprints in cement on the forecourt outside Gorman's Chinese Theatre. He also made a print in the cement of his facial profile. In his final film, Playmates, in 1941, he played a character called John Barrymore, who was an alcoholic actor, so he was once again playing himself. In October 1940, John found work on Rudy Valley's show called The Seal Test Show on the NBC radio network. On the 19th of May 1942, when he was recording a line from Romeo and Juliet for the show, he collapsed. He was taken to the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital. He died there 10 days later, on the 29th of May 1942, from cirrhosis of the liver, kidney failure and pneumonia. Here he is with Greta Garbo in the movie Grand Hotel. There is a story that was told in Errol Flynn's autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, that Errol, actor W.C. Fields, and poet and art critic Sadequatchi Hartman stole John's corpse and propped it up against a poker table for one last party. In a 2020 interview, Drew Barrymore confirmed that this was true. John was buried at Calvary Cemetery in Los Angeles. This is where he was buried. In 1980, his son, John Drew Barrymore, had his father's body cremated and reinterred in the family plot in Mount Vernon Cemetery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't have a copyright-free photo of the second grave, but I will put a link in the description box underneath the video so that you can see a photo of it. His grave was unmarked until fans placed a headstone on his plot in 1992. It is inscribed with "Alas, poor Yorick," in reference to a line in the play Hamlet. Such an amazing acting history, isn't it? If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!